The U.S. Senate, including supposedly pro-worker J.D. Vance and Josh Hawley, voted against reconfirming Lauren McFerrin to the NLRB, giving Trump the ability to appoint a majority to the board once he takes office. So here's what workers in the U.S. South were up to from December the 6th to the 20th. It's the last 2 weeks because we were not on the air last week. So 19 workers at Vestas, a uniform company in Vinton, Virginia, filed a petition to hold a union election with the Teamsters, Local 171. 5 workers at Chase, Carson, and White LLC, a project management company in Spring Lake, North Carolina, filed a petition to hold a union election with the Industrial Technical Professional Employees Union, ITPEU, OPEIU, an OPEIU affiliate, Local 4873, as did 3 workers at another location in Research Triangle Park, North Carolina. 9 workers at OQ Chemical in Bay City, Texas, filed a petition to hold a union election with the International Union of Operating Engineers, IUOE, Local 564. 14 workers at PetSmart in Florissant, Missouri, filed a petition to hold a union election with the Teamsters, Local 688. Workers likely pushed by their employer filed a petition to decertify the United Steelworkers, USW, Local 834-01, as the union representing 9 workers at Earl M. Jurgensen Company, a metal distributor and processor in Orlando, Florida. Workers at Prime Flight Aviation Services in Orlando, Puerto Rico, filed a petition to hold a union election with the Transport Workers of America, TWU. Workers at United Pacific in St. Louis, Missouri, filed a petition to hold a union election with the Teamsters, Local 618. Workers at Joe Hudson's Collision Center in St. Robert, Missouri, filed a petition to hold a union election with an unnamed union. The NLRB website was all sorts of messed up, so some of the stuff from this week does not have the complete information. 120 workers at Titan Concrete in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, filed a petition to hold a union election with an unnamed union. 14 workers at Standard Iron and Steel in Webb City, Missouri, filed a petition to hold a union election with an unnamed union. In election results, graduate workers at Vanderbilt, this is going to be a big story over the next 4 years, withdrew their petition for a union election with the United Auto Workers, UAW, after a judge ruled against the NLRB's election proceedings. Also, the workers say, fearing potential rulings from a future Trump National Labor Relations Board. The new landscape under a second Trump administration is foreboding for the newly burgeoning graduate worker union movement, where over the last 2 or 3 years, some 50 to 70,000 graduate workers at colleges across the country have unionized. 18 workers at Starbucks in Roswell, Georgia, voted unanimously in favor of unionization with Starbucks Workers United. 69 workers at Evergreen Shipping Agency in Dallas, Texas, voted 49-17 in favor of unionization with the International Longshore and Warehouse Union, ILWU, Local 63. 306 workers at Logan Regional Medical Center in Logan, West Virginia, voted 185-35 in favor of unionization with the United Steelworkers. 38 workers at Compass Connections in Harlingen, Texas, voted 29-8 in favor of unionization with the Teamsters, Local 657. 350 workers at UNFI in Atlanta, Georgia, filed a petition to hold a union election with the National Employees International Union and then withdrew the petition in the same week, presumably because they said that union's name is fishy as hell. In settlements, grievances, and unfair labor practices, the American Guild of Musical Artists, AGMA, secured a settlement on behalf of its members, wrongfully terminated dancers at Dallas Black Dance Theater in Dallas, Texas, of approximately $500,000 for the affected workers and more. The union continues to negotiate for a first contract with the company. The Department of Labor secured a settlement with Amazon requiring the company to develop plans to address ergonomic issues at its facilities and pay a penalty of $145,000 for previous citations in that area. In strikes and bargaining updates, members of the National Association of Letter Carriers are voting on their tentative agreement with the Postal Service. December 20th was the first day to request a duplicate ballot if something happened to your first ballot, and you can call 202-393-0614 to request that, or to request an initial ballot if you had not received one by the 19th. Teamsters Local 767 at Danone Dairy in Fort Worth, Texas, are holding practice pickets, demanding a strong contract from the international food conglomerate. From the Teamsters press release, the employer is fighting workers over hours of work, forced overtime, safety standards, pay raises, improved health care, and the length of the agreement. Danone North America amassed more than $1.7 billion in sales revenue in the third quarter, with much of that wealth generated by Dannon yogurt, made by the Teamsters. Pilots at Allegiant Airlines, unionized with the Teamsters Local 2118, held practice pickets in Iowa and Florida. The 1,300 pilots previously voted by 97.4% to authorize a strike. An Orlando, Florida restaurant informed its workers at 8 p.m. on Monday night via email that the restaurant would not be opening the following day and that they were all jobless, as is common in the restaurant industry. Following the Machinists Union's win at Boeing in the Pacific Northwest, where workers received a 40% raise over the next 4 years, workers at the company's South Carolina non-union plant also secured an immediate 9% raise and a $12,000 retention bonus, illustrating the value of unionization not just to members, but to the entire industry. The United Auto Workers UAW secured a neutrality agreement from Rivian, which was key for the company to receive a $6.6 billion subsidy from the federal government. However, it only kicks in if the company becomes profitable. Donald Trump appears to be prepared to violate collective bargaining agreements that agencies have made with their workers, particularly around telework, vowing to fire workers who don't come into the office. After workers at Merson in Columbia, Tennessee, won a union election with the CWA's industrial division, the company hired Jackson Lewis, a notorious union-busting law firm. Shortly after, on November 25th, the company laid off 80% of its staff. On December 15th, the company announced that layoffs of 25% of the workforce would be permanent. This, coupled with the increased hiring of temporary workers, illustrates that the decisions are aimed at union busting, not economics. The union is calling on elected officials to hold the company accountable and revoke the $500,000 in tax incentives from the company if they continue breaking the law. Piedmont passenger service and ramp workers are picketing the company at locations across the country, including in Washington, D.C. and Norfolk, Virginia, for a fair contract. Despite bargaining with the union, Communication Workers of America, for over a year, the company has not agreed to a satisfactory term on wages or health care, and many workers at the company rely on government assistance. Teamsters went on strike at 7 Amazon locations across the country this week, the largest work stoppage against Amazon in the company's history. The struck locations include Atlanta in the South, and the union extended pickets across the country, including here in Huntsville, where I was on the picket line yesterday, stopping and delaying shipments from union logistics companies like UPS. Starbucks workers have begun to strike nationwide as well, adopting the UAW tactic of starting at a few locations and spreading across the country. The Scottsboro, Alabama location will strike on Christmas Eve. United Airlines flight attendants, unionized with the Association of Flight Attendants, AFA-CWA, engaged in informational picketing last weekend as the company continues to delay on coming to a fair contract. Members of the Retail, Wholesale, and Department Store Union in Louisa, Kentucky, ratified a new contract with 10% raises and a $1,500 signing bonus, and bringing in contracted work. Hey, 5 seconds. Just wanted to say that this is only possible because of our donors. If you want to see more of this, then consider donating yourself at tvlr.fm/donate. In political and legislative updates, Trump is again proposing privatization of the Postal Service, something his first administration also proposed. Last year, the Alabama legislature eliminated the state income tax on overtime wages. This has apparently cost more than was anticipated, according to the Senate budget chair, and they are trying to lay the groundwork to reinstate this tax on working people instead of getting needed revenue from the rich. A couple of tests for Democrats are emerging after the election. One is the DNC race, where the AFL-CIO has put out a set of principles that the future chair should abide by, centering the economy, connections to working people, and an all-state, all-year organizing approach. Ben Wickler from Wisconsin seems most likely to fit the bill. The other test, which has now been resolved, was over the ranking position on the Oversight Committee, where AOC was gunning for the top Democratic spot, saying that she would aim aim not only to engage in political oversight, but lead with economic oversight, targeting corporations. Nancy Pelosi intervened on behalf of septuagenarian Jerry Connolly, who has throat cancer, and he was elected. Insane. Following the killing of the United Health Insurance CEO, a bill was introduced in the U.S. Senate to break up United Health, CVS, and Cigna by forcing insurers to sell pharmacy businesses. A judge blocked the merger of Kroger and Albertsons in a big win for Lena Khan, even as Trump has just announced that he will fire her and replace her with a pro-corporate, anti-woke ideologue. Quickly following this win, the FTC filed a lawsuit against Southern Glazers, a large wine and spirit distributor, alleging that they overcharge smaller independent businesses relative to large chains. This lawsuit will presumably be dropped by the future Trump FTC chair. 20-plus unions have formed the Fairfax Jobs Coalition in Fairfax, Virginia, in support of an entertainment district in Northern Virginia that would include a convention center, concert venue, hotel, restaurants, retail, workforce housing, and casino, because this project offers the prospect of good union jobs. In an unprecedented move, the developer has signed agreements with labor that could mean more than 5,000 union jobs in the county. A labor peace agreement gives more than 3,000 permanent service, hospitality, and retail workers the right to unionize, and a project labor agreement covers 2,000 construction jobs through which residents can gain lifelong careers with union apprenticeships. A coalition of business owners are trying to overturn the will of voters in Missouri and strike down a citizen-approved minimum wage increase in the courts. The American Federation of Government Employees, AFGE, opposes the elimination of the Department of Education, where it represents some 3,000 workers, citing the critical work their members at the department do, like administration of the Head Start program and providing professional development for educators and more. This, as the American Federation of Teachers, AFT, demurred on the question, saying that their union doesn't care about the existence of the department so long as the money gets to communities. A North Dakota judge issued a ruling keeping undocumented immigrants in 19 states, including Alabama, from utilizing the Affordable Care Act marketplace. I believe that decision has been stayed, if I'm remembering right. Legislation that would, quote, establish appropriate limits on federally compelled disclosure of information obtained as part of engaging in journalism, unquote, and would also limit federal law enforcement surveillance of journalists, was killed in the U.S. Senate by Senator Tom Cotton. Factions within the Alabama Democratic Party continue infighting, with former U.S. Senator Doug Jones saying that the current leadership doesn't have a plan and needs to be voted out, with the current leadership retorting that no one has ever had a plan, so there. The U.S. Senate, including supposedly pro-worker J.D. Vance and Josh Hawley, voted against reconfirming Lauren McFerrin to the NLRB, giving Trump the ability to appoint a majority to the board once he takes office. The 38th state ratified the Equal Rights Amendment, which would give women the same rights as men under the U.S. Constitution, and labor union women are calling on Biden to certify and publish the amendment to the Constitution. In internal union affairs, from the Kansas City Star, a former officer of the Kansas City-based International Brotherhood of Boilermakers has pleaded guilty to a racketeering conspiracy in an alleged $20 million embezzlement scheme involving union funds. The union's current leadership say they are turning the page on the corruption. If we missed anything, let us know about your union updates at tvlr.fm/contact. You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.